Hello YouTube, this is the Compound Fracture Let's Play Suzerain, episode number 8. We have made progress, we have made enemies. Progress and enemies go hand in hand well too often in politics, and the nation of Swordland is no different. Fortunately, the enemies that we have made are people in high places, and if we take away their power, they will no longer be enemies. Meanwhile, our friends are the people who elect us. We are populists, and we're okay with that. So the international news says that Wayland is deploying special forces to Vernon to combat the British Freedom Front. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. I think they're really look like they're supposed to be an amalgamation of Kurdish people in Turkey, and also of Jewish people in Eastern Europe. I think that there's a blend happening here. Okay, so the report from Suzerain, refugees of Vernon. Reports from our border and the Wessex city Vernon show that there are about 1,000 people running away from the military forces towards our border. Run, people, run! You are free here. Okay, we may have some more immigrants soon. Hopefully the BFF becomes our friends and stops committing acts of terrorism within our country. That would be nice. So the only option we have is to look at the assessment of the Benfey Festival scandal. We have Dinosaur and Pieter with us. The mayor's untimely departure was bound to reflect badly on me. The only question was how much damage would be caused. Dinosaur says the news is about to break even as we speak. We must act swiftly to protect the administration. Pieter agrees it's not good. You know, if we had just told him to shut up and sit down and not interrupt, that might have gone better, but I felt compelled to act decisively. Let's see how that works out for us. Right now, he looks like the victim thrown out of the festival for defending cultural values. The most important thing is narrative. Dinosaur's right about that. We need to regain it. He's also one of the Assembly's core conservative members. We've got to act before he rallies others against us. Well, that ship has sailed. The conservative members are not friends. At the same time, we must not apologize. Absolutely. Insulting the First Lady is an act that should not go unpunished, which is exactly the reason we did it. Okay, so 1 and 2 seem like good options. Either that the conservative cronies won't be able to stand up to the full force of our administration, or you've got that right, how dare you insult my wife. I think the first one is more of a call to action. The second one is more of like an emotional response, and we must be active more than emotional, I think, in this case. Exactly, a show of force could weaken his position. Yes, it could, Dinosaur, yes. Or Pieter says maybe it would get him to dig in harder. It might do both. It might weaken him while making him dig in, therefore weakening himself through petulance. How should we proceed? We will request a formal apology. Dinosaur doesn't expect compliance. I agree. Pieter says that he's had time to cool off. Right, secretary comes back. She has a short dress and dark eyeliner. Okay, clearly she'd be counting on me being away from the festival for longer. Still, her demeanor was professional. I think she should dress however she wants, regardless of whether I'm here or not. She says that Mr. Vector told me what happened. Should I connect you with the mayor directly? Yes, please. As you wish. I hope you won't make any compromises with Mr. Lest. He behaved like a pig. I agree, Livia. He certainly did. Pieter grinned and Lucien looked outraged. Interesting. A compromise may be necessary, Mr. President, unless you'd rather take advice from someone in a conical brassiere. Oh, screw you, Dinosaur. You are living up to your name yet again. I don't like either of these people, but they are our advisors. Curtin had not cooled off. What do you want, Rain? He says. I demand, we're not extending an olive branch to this pig. That's not going to happen, so we're going to demand an apology. He says we have some nerve, and we certainly do have some nerve. He has touched on those nerves most forcefully. What would he possibly apologize to you for? Ha! It was not a mistake. Would you have acted differently? She insulted our culture. He paused. The ball was in my court. Do you want a solution or not? That depends on you, he says. Here's his demand. First Lady won't meddle in politics. No meetings, no active... Okay, this is just not a thing. Should I fail to keep her away from politics, I can say goodbye to Anrica, the second largest city in the capital region. On the other hand, if I do this, he will issue a full apology. What will it be? No. No, 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 no. He thinks we've made a wrong decision. Hearing about the loss of Anrica to the National Front, he's going to run to the fascists. Ooh. You've made a very powerful enemy. You seem to be surrounded by more and more enemies. Well, that's true. We are surrounded by enemies, so we don't mind another. Because our enemies are surrounded by the people who outnumber them all. I will enjoy the fallout. It went worse than expected. We've lost the chance to control the narrative, and we've lost a city. It's going to have consequences. There's nothing we can do about that. It's interesting. Dinosaur's talking about working on an official response to his apology to paint us in the best light possible. It's interesting. Well, that went poorly. Maybe we could have been a little bit more diplomatic about the situation, but at the same time, I think, like, the die has been cast at this point. There was really nothing to be done about it except dig in our heels. Meanwhile, our economy is suffering. Our budget is decent. Let's see. I want to talk about Pieter and Evelyn. You're a bit better? Okay. Last while since we've had a drink. Maybe later. Phone began to ring. The news was out. Felt like eternity since the festival, but it had only been less than 24 hours. We're at home now, drinking an afternoon coffee on our balcony. A stack of newspapers lay by my side. I picked them up one by one. Maybe we should have had, like, a drink with Pieter. We could have, like, worked on him a bit, but oh well. I picked them up one by one, reading and rereading the articles about the festival. As expected, the headlines were merciless. I was compared to a dictator. Some even likened me to Soul. Interesting. The knowledge that Curtin would soon be fired provided little comfort. I was regretting my decisions. Regardless, it was too late now. The damage was done. We might have made a mistake. We got angry, and anger will not serve. We need to be very, very calculated in this role as president. I was putting the last newspaper down as Monica joined me on the balcony. Listen, can we talk? Of course, what is it? Monica sat down and picked up the newspaper. She pointed to it in a particularly insulting headline. I never in a million years would have wished for this, Anton. I just wanted to thank you for supporting me and apologize for creating such a spectacle. All I wanted to do was bring the people of Swordland together, the way you're able to, but not like this. Her eyes were getting moist. A single tear fell. Oh, Monica. You did well, Monica. You should not blame yourself. Let's see what's here. It's okay. Everything is under control. Oh, Anton, she says. She's filled with gratitude. Thank you. One more thing. You know how stubborn I am. All that business with Les at the festival distracted from my real message. I'm still not giving up on women's rights, Anton. I want to officially adopt this cause as First Lady, to be able to work on reforms, attend meetings, rally support among female politicians. I know this is something you're passionate about as well. I am. Can I count on you? Of course you can. This is the upside of the terrible situation that has been created. We have advanced our standing amid 50% of our population by taking these acts. Well, maybe not 50%. There's certainly some internalized misogyny happening here and there, but I think we can turn this to our advantage for the next election, even if we have to worry about backstabs within our own party. She hugs us tightly. Day's tension melted away. She thanks us. A noise came from the balcony door. We both turned our heads to see Deanna standing there. Deanna's hungry, so let's go to the kitchen. They will make us the best snack ever. Oh, our family loves us. That's wonderful. They left the balcony and returned half an hour later with a large cookie. Deanna had written my name and icing on it. Oh, that is so sweet. That is cute, like a little button of cookie goodness. Yes, it is. We're sipping our coffee. We love our coffee and nibbling our cookie. I thought that I had made the right choice. I agree, me. My internal dialogue is content. Yes, it is. Things were going to get harder, but at least my life at home was somewhat peaceful. Okay, we are doing well with our family. We are doing well with keeping to our priorities in this here nation. We are doing well at connecting with the people. And we are doing very, 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 very poorly at managing our reputation among the rich and powerful in our land. Let's read the news. Swordland Today talks about the honorable mayor being forcibly removed. That was probably a mistake, even though I don't think we're ruined by this. I think perhaps just telling them to shut up and sit down and not interrupt anymore would have been more to our benefit. It wouldn't have much changed the positive outcomes, but it would have reduced the negative ones. Dozens who attended the event accused the First Lady of politicizing the event for her own agenda. The Lekovan Times says scandal at Benfey. President kicks mayor out of festival. Festival's in full motion, but it started eventfully. It was her speech was interrupted by the mayor, who stood up to make remarks. We interjected, and with a scandalous move, we kicked him out. I don't know. Read the report from Conriat. Okay. Preparations began at the Conriat Naval Base to expand the port and restructure the security of the naval base to welcome United Contanan ships in the near future. Contanan security and logistics professionals have already been welcomed to the base to work with Swordisht officials. In Estord, there have been protests and looting continuing. The violence has been minimized, so the police say, and is mostly under control outside the big cities. But the police force reported that several militants have been hiding among protesters and are being watched closely. Oh, surveillance state. Good stuff. Gang violence has increased. The decrease of the police budget caused many police stations in the region to downscale. Since open warfare was declared between Skinner and the Coronelli cartel, the destructiveness of the raids has been increasing. Attempts on the police are becoming more and more brazen as well. The Ministry of the Interior reported the corruption rate within the police force has doubled since the Seoul period. Police corruption must not be tackled by increasing police budgets. That would be silly. Read the report from Lekovan. Okay, the Minister of Statistics, along with the Ministry of the Economy and the Central Bank, delivered a preliminary economic status report. The recession is deepening still. The financial system is headed towards collapse. The situation is dangerous. It sure is. This flight of capital that we have provoked was poorly timed. We can turn this around with investment. We're glad we have some money in the budget to do it. Now speaking of budget, the current situation of the military and its spending policy. We've got Pieter, we have Josef, and we have Valken Kruger, the Chief of the Armed Forces. General Valken, Mr. Lancia, let's start with the meetings. Okay. They prepared a briefing to convey further details about the current situation in our military. First off, we have received an updated communication from the United Kontanen Military Command. Despite Yosef's very vocal disagreement with the plan, the warships are approaching the Conriat naval base. And Vulcan also hates it. That's fine. Yosef is keeping them under surveillance. A single wrong move and we will... Oh, jeez. We'll do their best to make them feel at home. Our generals hate it. We might have to suffer a military coup. Ooh, we are making so many enemies. How can we possibly stay in power? I'm really, like, I like the way this game is going from the standpoint that I think we're in a very good position to push policy in this nation. I think we've solidified a base of support. I think we'll succeed in rewriting the Constitution and we'll be able to move towards more nationalized industry and employment for all and end the recession in that way. I'm pretty confident about that stuff. On the other hand, I am not at all confident that we won't be removed from power. I think we may have made too many powerful enemies and not enough powerful friends. So what's our army? According to the latest reports from Camp Strongarm, currently we field 3 armies totaling 400,000 active troops, which is a good amount. The issue is quality, not quantity. It's the equipment. Our army is outdated. Most of our equipment is 2 decades old. To make up for the lack of modern military equipment, we resort to a large number of soldiers, which is not as good. I have been trying hard to reduce the effects of this problem. It is problematic. We need more funding towards modernization, otherwise our army will be seen as weak. Where is the army deployed? Stationed at the Lesbia and Wayland borders to protect the way into the central regions of Swordland. The Second Army, the strongest force, is at the Rumburg border. The Second Army has a large mountain commando force, and it is the best equipped army because they are facing Rumburg. The Third Army near the Agnolian border and coastal areas facing Volksland. Due to our bitter past, we generally keep a coastal defense force, although many years ago, the decimation of our fleet still is not forgotten. How do we compare to other armies? Rumburg fields about 6 armies, amounting to 1 million soldiers. Lesbia fields 5 armies, which amounts to 800,000 soldiers. Volksland field 1 army of about 140,000 soldiers. Wayland field an army amounting to 100,000. Okay, so let's just go over this here. We had 400,000, is that true? Let's not skip this. We need to know the situation. Yeah, we have 400,000 troops. So Rumsburg has 1 million, they double us. Lesbia has 800,000, they double us as well. And Volksland only has 140,000. So that we wanted to make Volksland an ally, but they would not be able to help us in the case of an invasion. Meanwhile, Wayland fields an army of 100,000 and Agnolia fields 2 with 200,000. So Agnolia is stronger than Volksland. Lesbia won't be allies, will they? Yeah, no. No, Lesbia is like, the powerful nations are the ones that hate us. Interesting. The sheer size of Rumburg's army is because of their forced conscription laws. Due to their massive gold reserves, they can afford it. On the other hand, the Lesbian army is the most advanced, followed by the Vexlandian army. Both of these countries put money into modernizing their military. So I'm curious about our navy. Our navy is 59 ships with 60,000 sailors and support staff. We should know that these ships are commanded from our main naval base in Conriat, with our flagship S.N. Renan is docked. How does it compare to others? It's dwarfed by the Vexlandian Navy, with 194 ships, and the Agnolian Navy that has 81. We only surpass Lesbia in terms of navy, as they have less than 30. So that's interesting. The Lesbian army is very advanced, but their navy kind of sucks. As you can see, the situation is dire, but the solution is not more ships. To build a truly better navy, we need to equip our ships with modern radar and sonar systems. More outdated ships wouldn't mean much. Which seas do they patrol? We're patrolling the Markian Sea, the Grey Strait, and the Antetian C. What I'm hearing, by the way, repeatedly is that modernization is more important than numbers here. We need to modernize. Our Navy protects all our coastal regions, however, to make sure we are not thinning out our defense. We prioritize certain regions over others, like Greater Hallsort, our capital region. We often patrol the routes that are close to the shipping lanes, especially Marquian Sea and Grey Strait. The amount of cargo that goes through that area is eye-opening. Another thing to note is after the takeover of the Helgeland, where our Navy has led incursion operations to protect Agnolia, we must also take part in joint Navy drills. How about other branches? Which one? Air Force. Maybe I should have talked about power projection, but maybe I'll still have the option. Our Air Force currently has 410 planes, out of which only 140 are jets, and they're not in great condition. 30,000 pilots and support staff work in the Air Force, and they're commanded from the Mark Air Force Base in Ellery. What are our capabilities? Our planes can bomb targets within 400 kilometers of their airfield. They have medium range and semi-effective night bombing. Anytime we can field 7 air wings, composing a total of 130 aircraft. In terms of our bombing capability, so our aircraft are enough to subdue most targets, but our bombing capability have an average of 100 meters of precision, which isn't great, but it's still within the effective radius. Okay, interesting. How about our pilots? Our pilots have average experience, all right, but it's low compared to the experience in other countries around us. Interesting. Normally, the hours per pilot should be higher, but due to lack of funding, we can't increase the training times. Fuel costs are high. How does our Air Force work together with other military branches? The Air Force is trained as an independent tactical support branch, which means it assists the other branches but doesn't collaborate. This does cause issues like friendly fire and missed close air support opportunities. Not good, not good. There are ways to improve collaboration with joint operation rooms, something to think about. Well, what else do we have to ask? Let's move on. The Ministry of Defense is disappointed by the lack of additional funds. We knew that keeping the same budget would cause some concern for you, says Piotr. Let's say, okay, so we could be willing to support the military in other ways, come to an agreement, or say the military is important but not priority. I think those are the two options here. Let's come to an agreement if we can. We request any support we can get. The military circle has been moody. We expected more. I have prioritized other branches, yes. They're stuck between a rock and a hard place without money. We need allies. No use complaining now, Valken. Let's look what we can do, says Yosef. He's been planning to improve the quality of the armed forces by buying better military equipment. How is that possible without funds? It won't be. There's one way. If we relieve half the forces, that could create enough of a surplus that we could invest in new equipment. Go on. His eyes widened, or Valken's eyes widened. He says, we're barely matching the size of half of our neighbors. How on earth would discharging half the armed forces and buying new gear solve our defense issues? Well, we were reading the Radical newspaper the other day, and the Radical newspaper did suggest that we stop having mandatory military service for all citizens outside of time of war. So this would seem to go along with that priority. We could always draft if we get invaded, though it may be too late by that point. I'm going to say that Valken raises valid questions. Yosa says quality over quantity is the right strategy. Having a large force doesn't equal superiority. Piotr says the reduction of the army would cause unemployment, which could hurt the administration. God, our economy is in such disastrous shape. This clearly seems to be a question of economy versus military efficacy. Both are important. A smaller force makes sense for other reasons as well. Let's do it. Yosef likes us for once. Valken disagrees. Good work, everyone. Pieter likes to extend his thanks. Okay. Oh, man. The Halsard Post says the mayor of Anrica has joined the National Front Party. I mean, honestly, having fascists declare themselves to be fascists does not hurt us. If anything, I'd rather our enemies exist outside of our own party rather than within, where they can cause more damage. He still has the utmost respect for the foundational values of Tarquin's soul, which we do not share. So good. Now here's the info about the military force reduction. The Maroon Palace has announced the reduction in military size to adjust the forces and maintain force capability. The Chief of the Armed Forces, Kruger, has called a major challenge to the integrity of the military, warning that nearby threats are watching the developments closely. Oh dear. So we have lost Anrica. We're okay with that still. I thought we already saw this. Second Contanian satellite in space. Maybe this is just a different newspaper. Yeah, this is The Economist, so sure. Well, that's Swordland Today, I see. Okay, well, whatever. So in Anrica, we have the young swords have been arrested. More have been arrested. Police were ambushed during their raid of a young swords building. A firefight broke out. 4 militants were killed. 10 more arrested. An officer was also killed. And Curtin Lest, of course, switched. So Anrica is close to the capital. It's a very important region. So we'll read the report on education reforms. We need some good news, people. This is going to be good news. I can feel it. The Ministry of Education is reporting that the massive overhaul to the system is progressing well. All schools in Swordland will collaborate in the reduction of hours taught in citizenship, soulism, and nationalism subjects. Significant efforts are being made to lessen the political indoctrination in education. Other changes are also happening in the curriculum. Pedagogical improvements like improved teacher-student relations and the emphasis on critical thinking development have begun all across the entire country. Minister Walda reports solid progress on many fronts, with few schools delaying the transformation on political grounds. Okay. This is weird. What's next? It doesn't seem like we have any exclamation marks anywhere. Oh, here it is. The Republic of Magnolia. Trade talks. Okay, trade talks. So we're going to fly in here. And we're going to rely very heavily on Whiskey's support and advice here because he is amazing. So many conflicts over that tiny little island. Yes, yes. Isn't that always the way? I know, I was just thinking the same thing. Thousands of people have died fighting for it. Wonder if it's worth it. Suspect it'll be one of the topics that Mr. Van Houten will bring up as a bargaining chip. We must be careful. Helgeland might be under the control of Agnolia, but the international community is yet to recognize it, for good reason too. Nobody wants to make an enemy of Valgsland, especially because of the support of United Contana and the CSP. Me included, I wouldn't want to do anything to injure our relationship. And Whiskey agrees. Simon folded up his newspaper, got up from the seat, and sat right next to us. Aside from the point of Helgeland, we need to be careful with the additional requests. According to the deal that was negotiated so far, they want to sell us their steel for a higher price, and they are requesting easier access to our agricultural market. In return, they are promising cash flow and investments, especially in the England region. It's not hard to guess why. Precisely, says Whiskey. Agnolian immigrants in our England region make up a good chunk of the region's economy now. During the initial negotiations, they have brought up the topic of immigration many times. The fact that we have relaxed our immigration laws will help tremendously. Let's see if we can shake hands on it. This is going to be difficult. I mean, I don't want them coming out against us. We have way too many enemies, and they share a border here with our biggest international enemy. But I am mostly concerned with getting on in the good graces of United Contana, because even though that risks a proxy war, which could destroy our nation, I think our nation has a higher chance of being destroyed without a superpower backing us up. Took another look outside the window. I could see Stallport, the capital city. Large dockyards of the city and canals appeared closer as our descent continued. Stallport was certainly a fitting name due to the stall meaning canal. Oh, okay. Stall means canal. I get it. Canal port. That's where we're going. A couple minutes later, we touched down. The plane parked. I took a final look out the window and walked the red carpet. We're going to wave at the crowd. Camera flashes. Prime Minister isn't in sight. Instead, we are greeted by the Foreign Minister. After handshakes and photos, we moved to the car where Serge was waiting. Oh, Serge, you joined us. That's very nice. He says, good day. He hopes the flight was comfortable. Yes, it was. Thank you, Serge. You've brightened our day once again. I got in the car and made our way through the foreign streets. Our convoy was protected by Swordish and Agnolian guards in their vehicles. We began driving the highway beside the port and saw dozens of dockyards and ships anchored. Some of the ships and machinery looked old. Interesting. The city itself looked very gray and grim. The buildings had a touch of Rumburg's famous monarchian architecture, with a mixture of Swordish signature domes on the older ones. We were now on the main road to the office of the Prime Minister. This is very interesting. Serge says it looks like they are not happy to see us. He pointed at the crowd gathered on both sides of the street. It was a protest. They were shouting and yelling at our convoy. Some of them held signs written in Swordish, Swordland must pay its debts to Agnolia. Oh, imperialism, it will make us enemies among the people. You know, Serge says, I never knew Agnolians were so ungrateful. Oh, Serge. You obviously got one of those patriotic educations that we've eliminated. It's not your fault, Serge. Not everyone sees a great leader like you every day. Oh, interesting. I wonder what propaganda their state is feeding them. That's got to be it. They are afraid of you, sir. They are scared that Swordland will reach its potential. They don't want you to be seen as the great hero you are. We've arrived. Exiting the car. I saw the Prime Minister much more clearly as I entered the door. He was shorter than I thought. Now, let's refamiliarize ourselves with his politics. He's the leader of a centrist, Neurist Democratic Union. He's a promoter of privatization and relaxed immigration. He has used oil, the discovery of oil, to benefit the economy of his country. Okay. Good to see you, Martin. Let's keep this familial, shall we? Oh, overpower his handshake. That's a thing. Let's just shake hands. Let's do the middle ground. He gestured to the entrance of the 200-year-old Parliament building. This way, please. We entered and the press followed us. He would like to present us with a gift as a sign of friendship. An assistant showed up immediately with a large glass box. It contained a single parchment. This here is one of the first treaties written in between Swordland and Agnolia, just like the one we have prepared with Mr. Whiskey before my term. May it mark the renewal of our friendship. Interesting. Thank you. Photos were taken again. I gestured at one of my retainers who was holding our gift to the PM. What's our gift here? Give him a sword? Oh, give him a puppy despite his well-known fear of dogs. Give him a copy of the first Constitution of Swordland. That's really silly. Like, that Constitution's outdated. Let's do a sword. A swordish sword. The swordishest of all swords. Okay. He thinks it's an excellent specimen. It must be hundreds of years old. It looks like swordish steel as well. Very fitting. The game clearly shares my joke about how Swordland must have many swords. I made that joke several episodes ago, and now the game has decided to catch up. Let's go to my office, he says. Follow me. I followed him, and we entered the office of the Prime Minister. It was a room of wooden minimalist decoration, far more modest than expected. Oops. We sat down, he leaned back and made himself comfortable. Sheesh, he says, thankfully done with the ceremonies. I was about to say the same. I'm not fond of those either. It's one of the tougher parts of the job. Oh, we are making a friend. He got up and moved to the bar. Many varieties of liquor. Would I like a drink? We could go with, interesting, the wine, which would prove that we are refined in our tastes. Him. We could take some vodka, or we could just ask for water. Let's take vodka. Let's be oh, we know our drink. Okay, we have made friends yet again. We don't want him to control his protesters. Let's go straight to business. First of all, he would like to say that he has been watching my recent changes to the immigration policy, and he's glad that we decided to keep it relaxed. Immigrants are very important for beneficial economic development. Very true. And we believe that in Agnolia. It's reassuring to see Swordland move in a more modern direction. Thank you. We won't push back on that. So tell me, Mr. Rain, is Swordland a reliable trading partner? As long as Agnolia is also a reliable trading partner. He can assure you we are. Okay. It was a good move to start building that highway. Overall, this will affect our trade positively. He likes us very, very much. Hopefully, we can rely on him liking us to avoid angering his allies with any sort of military aid. Or his enemies, rather, not his allies. Thank you. You are very kind. He leaned back further in contemplation. So what is it going to be? First of all, if we shake hands on it, this agreement is going to be beneficial, he says. You should be able to solve your recession in no time with the investment and money flow coming from us. This is, as you know, on top of the reduced tariffs for trade between our countries. Of course, in return, as discussed between my people and your people before, you will allow us privileged access to your agricultural market. You will be buying steel from us for a higher price, which is a small price to pay. That's the deal. What do you say? I have such mixed feelings about this. I'm desperate to improve our economy. But I don't want to anger the Eastern Bloc. I also don't want to be perceived as giving him a deal that's very friendly to his nation and not to ours. However, at the same time, I don't want to continue the historical relationship of exploitation. I'm worried that if we push back against this deal, he might start to bring in the military side of it, which I don't particularly want to discuss. I'd rather let sleeping dogs lay on that one. So I think I'm going to do something that might be regretful and look at this economic development bar and see it at 2 out of 10 and worry very much about that and accept. Okay. So before we dive into the paperwork, he wants to offer another possibility. He wants to unite militarily. This is the rub, isn't it? So Agnolia did not have a particularly strong military. But we do absolutely need allies, even if they aren't ideal allies. A large group of their population are believed to be sympathetic to Malenkievism and Vexlandian socialism. That is very interesting. So what happens to this alliance if the president here, the prime minister, is deposed? I think we're not ready to go that far. It's unfortunate, it would have been beneficial, but they can stand on their own selves. Another topic, eh? Yeah, well, you know what? We're not going to go along with this. This is the thing we especially wanted to avoid, this talk about anti-Volksland sentiments. You should know the international community does not recognize their rightful claim. Wouldn't it be good that Swordland finally announces the recognition? You're asking too much? They won't push much on the matter. Okay, so we have a trade deal that'll help our economy. I'm okay with that. We have not made any, alliances that should anger their enemies, I don't think. Or I hope not, anyway. This is a very difficult meeting that we're having here. He says that we must continue the official program. As I know, they will pay a visit to their founder's grave for another ceremony. Afterwards will be the state dinner. Let's go ahead after him. The rest of our state trip was full of fake smiles, handshakes, incredibly long ceremonies, and even longer meetings. When we came to the end of the trip, the way back was mostly silent. I couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief when we touched down on Hallsword. Let's look at the news. Hallsword Post says new trade deal. Now, are they going to be angry at our lack of better terms here? Seems like this newspaper is okay with it, and the extra trade that would come. What do economists say? President Rain gives upper hand to Agnolia. They find it baffling how we could give the upper hand. So the economists are against us, but that's okay. They were against us already. And Geopolitico says that Van Houten is playing with fire. The press conference escalating tensions over the island. Interesting. So that makes me happier to have not accepted his military alliance offers. It would be nice to be able to just trade with the Democratic Republic of Volksland here, or approach them rather than waiting for the story to make that happen, but we can wait. So what's next game? Where are the exclamation marks? Oh, here we go. The Republic of Welland. Okay. Now we hate this particular neighbor of ours because they are persecuting a religious minority, and we cannot support that. It's part of the reason we needed to work out that previous trade deal. I think if we had pushed back on the conditions, they would have required military assistance out of us. I think we did the right thing. Okay, so we have Simon and David again. Okay. Saw soldiers lining up on either side of the red carpet. There must have been at least 100 soldiers. So this is a military state, clearly. Let's proceed to the carpet with no gestures. We will not salute back. So this is their president. He's the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, as well as being the president. Oh, nationalism with socialist characteristics. Right. This is this hyper-nationalist, but also Eastern aligned country. with financial aid coming out of the Eastern Pact. We have to trend very wisely here. Maybe we should have saluted back. Maybe that was a mistake. He motioned for an embrace and we hugged. Okay, sure. It's nice to see him. Now that the pleasantries are done, let's go. We'll take a jeep. Okay. It's too bad we don't have Surge with us. We like Surge being by our side. This time we will salute the soldiers. Let's do it. My security detail and his started following us with a team of reporters. First, we'll go to the city center to see the opening of a statue. Whose statue? Oh, it's of him, of course. Oh dear. We kept we kept making small talk about the flight and weather. On almost every corner, there were reporters taking photos of us. Oddly, though, every single street seemed completely empty. This seems very North Korea. Very, 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 very North Korea. Is it always this empty? He had the locals close down their businesses because of my visit, so I can enjoy the city more. Oh dear. We arrived at the city center. In the middle of a large plaza, there was a covered statue. Lots of people had gathered behind fences, and they were waving both Swordland and Wayland flags. Victor waved back at them. His people have been very supportive of the visit. I'm sure we are delighted to see. A man came closer to the fences and started yelling at him. With my limited knowledge of the language, I understood the words Victor and murderer. Almost instantly, 2 soldiers showed up from behind. Thankfully, the sun is up, the president says. Today will be a good day for the reveal. What will happen to that man? Oh, which man? The one in the crowd? Don't worry about the details. Troubled fellow. So we took our places in front of the statue. With the drum roll, the statue was uncovered. It was done pretty well, except he was made more masculine. He was wearing a cloak and holding a sword. Excellent statue, very lifelike, he says. What do we think? Should we lie? We don't have time for these games. He wants us to take a walk with him. It's another game. Stopping in front of a pastry vendor. We're getting strudels. Strudels. Now I'm hungry. That's not good. I don't have any food here. Well, I suppose I do have food, but it must be prepared. Ooh, imagine that. So let's pay the street vendor, because he is not. He says, hold up, your money doesn't count here. He's got this. He handed money to the vendor. The cameras flashed again. Okay. Passing the gates of the palace, we made our way into the main building. The old guard's towers flanked the magnificent main building. The inside of the palace was spacious with a very large chandelier. It sounds like our vice president's residence. Yes, it does. That is very sad. Grand staircases made from the same ivory stone had red carpets on them. On both sides to the upper levels, guards stood with their traditional outfits of the old Wazek kingdoms. We finally reached the office of the president of Wayland. The door closed behind us. The interior boasted gold ornaments on the walls, ivory colors, and various jewels attached to different artifacts of old. As it was customary in Wayland, we sat down on the carpet. We can now talk about our trade deal. We're not going to be we're not going to risk angering him for no reason. We're just going to nod. We're not going to say finally. But before that, oh geez. Oh geez, oh geez. He clapped his hands. All right. Who do you have? Bring the Keisha, really? Few assistants entered the room carrying a large ornamented Keisha, the well-known smoking instrument from Wayland. They immediately lit up the room. Well, I mean, I do like tobacco, so no problem at all. Might as well partake in that. That's like the best of all the things you have offered me yet. Highest quality tobacco I've ever smoked, okay. He took another puff. The room was filled with smoke. So, that took too long. Can I call you Anton? Sure, why not? Anton, tell me, what did you really think about Rumberg? We could downplay it. We could talk about them being a threat that needs to be dealt with. We can be all angry and furious. That will not serve. Or we can say not much in particular, like any other country, they have their needs and their own agenda. That's an interesting choice here. You know, it's interesting. I like the idea, even though I despise this man with all of my heart and soul. I like the idea of finding alliances with nations that will further our long-term political aims. So let's just see here. They, yeah, okay. They're very weak. Bloody proxy war. Yeah, I mean, this is totally North Korea. Totally. A version of North Korea that smokes the hookah, which I guess is a slight improvement. Okay. Let's just say nothing in particular. We'll see. Their ambitions are over Wayland and Swordland. They are. We must be careful. I assure you their time will come. Are you planning something? No, not yet. For now, he has something else in mind. I'm listening. Map of border regions between Wayland and Swordland. He pointed at the border. Look, he says, Blunds and their so-called BFF are causing problems for me in the region, and I know that they're a problem for you as well. No, they aren't a problem. They are a minority to be helped. I will not allow these traitors to exist in my borders. I will hit them with all the might of Wayland. These terrorists need to be destroyed. He calls it Operation Bear Trap. So we can say that we don't support the action, or we can ask him what he wants from me. And we'll almost certainly turn him down when he says it. I feel like shutting him down at this point will be a stronger message, but we might not want a stronger message. We kind of want at least some, like, we don't want to make an enemy out of him. We'd rather have him, like, be kind of, like, ambivalent towards us, if anything. So this is an interesting choice. It's like pragmatism versus principle. Like many of these choices end up being. Huh. What do you want from me? He grinned. Here's the deal. Best trade deal in the region. Assistance crushing terrorists. Absolutely not. This is not just Wayland's problem, it's also Swordland's problem. These terrorists are doing anything they can to destabilize the region. My spies have infiltrated BFF cells and found caches of K-74. We trace them back to Rumberg. Okay, so Rumberg is... Oh yeah, we learned this earlier, that one of Rumberg's goals was to arm the Bloodists in order to destabilize our countries. Worst of all, we found similar shipments are going to Swordland. Yeah, we already knew about that. That was already something we were briefed on like a year ago. Let's take a step back and talk about what you will get. He proposes a no-tariff agreement, co-investment, projects, and oil. In return, we will assist him in destroying the terrorists. There might be international ramifications. To hell with international ramifications. Oh, God. You're terrible. He's going to give us all the money and all the resources in exchange for a joint operation. No deal. I'm straight up not going to do that. We are relying on, like, okay, this is pragmatic as well, right? We're relying on those two left-wing parties to allow us to govern effectively now that we've alienated the conservatives. One of the two left-wing parties is the Bloodist Socialist Party, or whatever it's called, the People's Party or something. And they have actually the closest political agreement with us of any of these groups. The only potential downside of working with them is that they are a nationalist and sort of ethnic-oriented party, but their actual politics are fantastic. Now, they may be disavowing the BFF, but I'm certain if we, try to commit a genocide, they will never forgive us for that. That will completely kneecap our own base of support within our own country. We can't do that. His final offer: when the operation starts, there will be stragglers crossing. He wants us to support the operation even if we don't join, stop the terrorists from fleeing, and we'll have a deal. No, refugees can absolutely come to our country. Well, we've made another enemy. We keep making enemy after enemy after enemy. Take care of yourself. Oh boy. That was a thing. He wanted us to participate in a genocide in exchange for money. Some things can't be bought, people. We love our people, we want to empower our people, and the best way to empower our people is not to systematically murder a section of them. But because of that, our budget is back down to 0, whereas it was at 1 before. This is unfortunate. So now we must give a speech on the reforms. I came to the Grand National Assembly to deliver a speech regarding the new constitution and ask for the support of the Assembly. I walked quickly through the corridors, giving my greetings to people on the way to Parliamentary Hall. When I entered the hall, the Assembly was in complete chaos with a shouting and cursing between the parties. There was a heavy argument about a proposal made by an MP from the fascist front. I took my seat inside the special area reserved for the ministers. Gloria was shouting from her seat at the center of the hall as she hit the gavel 3 times. Order, order, she says. I saw Casaro Keebner, who's that? That's the leader of the National Front, standing up from his seat and shouting towards the members of the PFJP, the Liberal Social Democratic Party. Mr. Keebner, calm yourself, show respect to the procedures of this assembly. Despite her efforts, the argument continued for a couple minutes before everyone took back to their seats and finally went quiet. Mr. Keebner, next time when I tell you to do so, either take your seat or leave the hall so we can proceed with the procedures of this assembly and continue our duties. Some MPs from the National Front shouted back at her. Honorable ladies and gentlemen, if you would allow me to continue, she says. She pointed at me. We have the president here with us today. He is asked to give an important announcement. And the assembly fell silent. You have the floor, Mr. President. Now, okay, is this Gloria? Was she the leader of the conservative wing of our party? Was that what it was? She's the speaker. We know that. Yes, she was. She was the leader of the conservative wing. She does not like us. Okay. Let's address them as brothers and sisters. I am here today to raise important questions regarding our outdated constitution. So what do we want to focus on here? It is the assembly. We might say the elected assembly has always been overshadowed, knowing the Supreme Court. Well, we should phrase it positively. We could talk about how we ourselves hold too much authority, which would be, pretty strong here. But let's talk about how the elected assembly has been overshadowed. It's always been overshadowed by the executive and the designated judiciary branches in Swordland. The Grand National Assembly must be able to exercise its job properly and without obstruction. However, our current constitution fails to guarantee this. Okay, so if we say that we must finally rewrite the Constitution of Soul and break the chains of our past, that will anger the right wing and the traditionalists who already hate us. If we say we want to prepare for a more democratic era, that would do similarly. That'll help with the left within this assembly. I call everyone to stand with us to make historic changes and bring us to the standards of today's world. Seems less effective than the other two. So basically, we either have the softer approach, talking about more democracy, or the hard approach, talking about an end to the Constitution of Soul. Let's do number one. Therefore, we propose changes to the Constitution to prepare Swordland for a more democratic era. Applause came from the USP, which is our party, and from the People's Freedom and Justice Party. Now, let's not target the Supreme Court quite so heavily. We'll talk about rebalancing the branches of government to ensure a more democratic process. We will rebalance the branches, yes. I focused on unity, change, or peace. Change and peace sound good. Let's say change. We must not be afraid of change. The world is changing, and Swordland needs the change it has earned after years of soulism in the last decades. We will rewrite the old and make a new constitution that would reflect the will of the people and open the way for a democratic Swordland. I like it. Now, we're not going to say we will make Swordland great again. That is a call to past authoritarians. That is a conservative position point, and it is not at all about looking forward to a more promising tomorrow. Instead, let's embrace the future. Just as I was about to continue speaking, Lauria Tory interrupted me. Mr. President, with all due respect, I believe Swordland is already democratic. Yes, I knew that she was going to be a problem. We both know that our Constitution is flawed, might be okay. You don't believe that would invite her to explain exactly why she believes that. It would put her in the driver's seat and allow her to dictate the terms of this particular argument we're having. These two may appear heavy-handed. Don't interrupt me, I'm not finished yet. We both know that our Constitution is flawed. Tarquin's soul and his efforts can't be ignored, she says. We must keep following the path he defined for Swordish people. I'm sure that the honorable members of USP will see that the president is acting rash by allying with the opposition to destroy the culture of soulism. That was the extent of my quick note. Thank you. The president has the floor. Interesting. We are not... Oh, we are kind of here to destroy soulism. I don't love that. Okay, so if we say that the USP is behind us, that will invite that mayor and his followers to reject what we're saying, and it'll make it appear like we are even more divided than we actually are. If we say we're not here to destroy soulism nor our cultural values, that puts us on the back foot, and it risks alienating the reformers. If we just say that's disrespectful, don't sabotage my speech, that seems very, toddlerish. It doesn't seem at all confident. So I'll act as though that didn't happen. Please continue, she says. I don't think we want to say let's set aside our differences. I ask everyone to think clearly about our current situation and join us for change seems good. I think we can count... What we should really be trying to do is court the liberal sock dem vote right here, because I think we can count on our own party, no matter what we do at this point, being divided. The fascists will clearly vote against. So let's double down on the idea of change. Be part of a new era for Swordland. Join us and vote for our proposal. This is very interesting. We could talk about our own party changing and leading Swordland into the future. We could talk about let's write the future together, which seems like a more conservative approach. I mean, not conservative politically, conservative in terms of our own tactics. Let's write the future together feels like an appeal to the reformists, the Soc Dems. Us changing and leading Swordland into the future seems like a good way to provoke a split in the party on our terms, which will allow us to redefine the party for the future. Let's take the risky approach. We've made plenty of enemies already. They'll be our enemies either way. It's time to start making friends. Let's finish with a poem. There is a victory growing with every morning. There is a revolution that's coming. There are songs to be sung in affectation of our victories. Fear not when the dark falls. There is an artist painting the sun. Beyond the next morning, there is victory waiting to be won. The assembly roared with all kinds of different reactions. We have made friends and enemies alike. That is good because the enemies were already against us. Now the friends will defend us with a lot more force and vigor. Some applause came from the PFJP and USP seats. Most of the others started to make loud noises again. We might not have a majority. I walked back to my seat as many MPs asked to speak. Franz Richter was among them. Yes, Mr. Richter. Thank you, Mrs. Speaker, he says. I would like to thank Mr. President for his speech. We, the People's Freedom and Justice Party, stands in agreement with the need for a more democratic constitution. I would like to thank the ladies and gentlemen of the United Swordland Party for their more open attitude compared to past years. As long as Mr. President's words prove not to be just words, we will be behind this much-needed movement for change. We welcome this attempt. Yes! We have support. I ask the President to share the final contents of these proposals as soon as possible. Thank you, Mrs. Speaker. Suddenly, the leader of the fascists starts yelling. The President must have lost his mind to cooperate with the likes of you, Mr. Richter. You and the PFJP are nothing but puppets of Western interests. Well, they kind of are. I mean, we're going to dump them as soon as we can, but for now we need them. Like, there's no real choice about this. Order, says Gloria Torrey. Madam Speaker, I know you are in agreement with me as well. Don't sit idly by while the administration is making deals with snakes and undermine the integrity of He's probably right. Gloria Torrey, even though she's in our party, probably does side more with the fascists than with us. It's sad, but it's also true. Order, she yells, Mr. Keebner. How many times do I need to say you are speaking out of turn? I demand to speak, he says. Gloria gave him a stare. She looked annoyed. Very well, Mr. Keebner. Go ahead. You see, I told you she was on his side. Despite all the bluster, she's letting him speak completely out of turn. Mr. President, he says. He looked directly at me. The nationalist movement does not agree with your priorities, nor the way you're trying to implement them. The National Front Party will not stand with you on your new constitution. I did not want them to stand with me. I give them a giant middle finger. Yes, I do. Let it be known that the NFP's concerns are not included in this so-called democratic reforms. Thus, Mr. President has no right to claim them as such. Well, I tell you, Mr. President has never claimed to support your concerns. We will stand our ground against any attempt to bring down our established political culture and national values. He went back to his seat, but the chaos in the assembly continued. We must speak. Yes, Mr. President. What do? We could thank Mr. Richter for his support. We could condemn Mr. Keebner in the harshest terms, or we could just passively thank everyone. Let's condemn Mr. Keebner. Mr. Keebner. It is you who shouldn't use the word democratic when you want a more centralized government. He slouches. We don't need you. Your times have passed, Mr. Keebner. Mr. Richter. We'd like to have cooperation. I welcome your positive attitude. Thank you, Mrs. Speaker. I got up from my seat and started to walk towards the exit. MPs kept shouting and responding to each other, creating a loud mess where nothing was legible. Order! Order! The topic has finished. We are moving on to the next topic. I slowly left the hall, and the shouting could be heard from every corridor of the National Assembly. I believe a new era has begun. We have a giant continue button. But we also have some unfinished business. Let's read the report from Hallsword. Dinosaur reports that so far they've been able to get 121 signatures. The work is underway to increase the support and reach the necessary 150. So that's unfortunate. We're not there yet, but we will get there. There is news in the land. The Hallsword Post is quoting us, saying our election assembly has always been overshadowed. Let's see. It's a simple report. It's not really showing whether it's for or against. Geopolitical says Walker warned the Vagslandian Navy over the Zeeland dispute. So Walker is... Who is that again? Dwight Walker. Oh yes, the Arcasian president, right. Okay, it looks like there might be a proxy war in Volksland at some point. So we have a big continue button here. But I think continuing along that path is something that we should leave for the next episode. So YouTube, good night. And I hope you're doing well. This was episode 8 of our Let's Play Suzerain series. We are about to embark in a brave new era for Swordland. We are about to solidify our support from the left and ditch the right wing to the trash bin of history, as it were. We are going to build an economy that's strong, but strong in such a way that it works for every citizen and even for non-citizens, for refugees, for anyone who wants to shelter in our country. We will protect ourselves militarily by seeking international alliances with the Eastern Bloc, because they will support our new direction, while at the same time we will try to undermine their authoritarian values with the positive example of workplace democracy. But that's a story for next time. For now, good night.